Now, Sports Talk with Broads. Here's Hunter Brody.
Dominance! All we see is dominance right now out of the Philadelphia 76ers. Another game where I honestly get bored. Another game where I have to think about how much the Sixers are actually up because it's such an obnoxious amount that I have to do math, and I can't even tell you the last time I had to do math, so now my brain is all jumbled. But here's what I know. The Sixers are unbelievable when it comes to this matchup right now. The Toronto Raptors are so desperate that Nick Nurse is actually losing credibility in my eyes because it's getting kind of embarrassing. Look, after game one, I wasn't hating the fact that he said a couple things or whatever, just because I understand what working the referees are all about. But then he did it again. And then he did it again. And then he did it again. And then he told Siakam to go after Joel Embiid with the hard foul. And he told OG Anunoby to go after him. So he basically admitted, we have zero answers. Our only hope is to be so damn desperate that we have to cry all day long, every moment we can, to hope and pray that the referees change. But there's no reason to change because reality of the situation is they don't have a chance of stopping someone who's better than they are. It's just that simple. If you watch this game play out, I don't understand how Raptors fans can honestly believe the reason why Joel Embiid is going to the free throw line is nothing other than there's no one on the Raptors roster who can do any sort of damage against Embiid, and Embiid is a better and bigger talent who's working harder and accomplishing his goal, which is establishing low presence and making sure that guys are found. If there's a craft and there's an ability to draw fouls, and when you're 7'2", it makes it that much easier when you have the bag of tricks that Joel Embiid has. So when he misses his first initial shot, grabs the offensive rebound. This is after Matisse Thybulle. This is in the first quarter or so, where Matisse Thybulle gets a big block. Here go the Sixers out in transition. They dump it into Embiid in the post on the block. He misses, gets the rebound, puts it back up, and one. And he's all fired up, getting the crowd going. 19 points in that first quarter, finished with 31. It was ridiculous. And if I was a fan of a team that was playing the card that Nick Nurse is, I'd be like, dude, shut up. This is getting brutal. How can you honestly support that every single time something goes wrong, that you're complaining it's everybody else's fault? Isn't it kind of obvious? Isn't it anyone's... I mean, how does anyone watch this and think anything other than we do not have the answers to solve the equation? That's what's going on right now. And that's just reality. Postseason ball is different than regular season ball. The Raptors are banged up, no doubt about it. But even if they were healthy, I don't think they have what is necessary to be able to exploit some of the Sixers' issues. Because right now, the Sixers are just literally flowing on all cylinders here. You look at the starters. Tyrese Maxey, his speed is unbelievable. His balls are huge. Here goes a run by the Raptors in the fourth quarter. I wasn't nervous. I figured they'd be okay. And of course, who but Tyrese Maxey hits a big three to stop the bleeding. He had a couple monstrous shots. How about he goes down? He stays on the court for a little bit. The broadcast goes to commercial break. This is right around when Joel Embiid's playing with his elbow. And of course, it has to be Matisse Thybulle, the unvaccinated one, who's going to be unavailable for you in the next couple of games as they go to Toronto, which is a big storyline. But oh, by the way, how about Danny Green not only dunking the damn ball and looking like he's 18 again, but he's cashing in big shots as well. And I was one of the ones to tell everyone, look, there's something to be said about the professionalism of Danny Green. There's something to be said about how long he's done this for, and he's been around the block. There's something to be said about the veteranness of him. And he's been very, very, very big in some moments here over the last handful of games. Obviously, the first playoff game, it wasn't necessarily the case, but a couple games during that late stretch of the regular season, there was something that hit him big time internally when it comes to confidence. And you saw that today with not only the spacing, but the ability to drive and throw it down as well. But the point I was going at here is you look at the starting lineup and you have Maxey. You have Tobias Harris doing it on both ends, catching, shooting. And I love hearing quotes from him and hearing him discuss what was going on during the thought process of how his game needed to change, having some one-on-one meetings and figuring out what would be best. And it takes time for that to kind of happen. It's not easy. It's not simple. It doesn't happen overnight. You need to play minutes with one another. You have to figure each other out. You got to work on certain sets. James Harden. It's not even like James Harden had a big day at the office. He ended up clocking in, what was his stat line? 14-6. But that just shows you, if Harden has a 14-6 game, what was part of my philosophy of this series, right? You're going to have games where Harden and Embiid do their thing. You're going to have a game where Harden doesn't necessarily have a big one. But can other guys have big nights when that's the case? And they did. The whole team. Everyone kind of had their moments. Now, I thought George Niang defensively, when Pascal Siakam was on him, I cringed for a little bit of time. But the non-Embiid minutes with Paul Reed, they definitely won the battle there. And it really comes down to, once again, the Raptors do not have the options to force the Sixers to get uncomfortable. And that is so clear. That is so obvious by the road that Nick Nurse is taking. Have you ever heard Nick Nurse do this style? Have you ever heard Nick Nurse do this in years past when he had Kawhi Leonard, when he had Kyle Lowry, when he had that team going and when they were winning basketball games? The answer is no. And why was that? Because he knew he had a different team. Because he knew he could do things differently. This is pure desperation. This is, I have nothing else. This is my final card, and I have to put everything out on the table right now. This is everything I have. And I hate to break it to you, Nicholas, it's not enough. And the fact that he gets into it with Joel Embiid afterwards, it's like, enough is enough, dude. Enough is enough. You look like a loser. And I think that Nick Nurse is a fine coach. But this is a bad look for someone that, I respect a lot. It's like, dude, I'm losing respect for you for the angle that you're taking here. And just to put it in perspective of when I tell the world that NBA head coaching only goes so far, Nick Nurse, everyone before the series would say, is far superior and way better than Doc Rivers. And you could still say that's the case right now, 1v1. If you were just picking a guy to start a franchise, Nick Nurse, Doc Rivers, right? You want to throw up that in a Twitter poll? I bet you a lot of people say Nick Nurse. Who has the better talent and whose players are better? Ding, 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 ding. The Sixers are winning, not because of Doc or Nick Nurse screwing up or anything like that. It's because their players are executing. Their players are playing extremely well. And I didn't think it would look this good. If I'm going to be 1,000% honest, which I think everyone agrees that they probably thought it would be tough. They'd sweat it out. It would be a 6-game series. You'd have to earn it. And you still have to go to Toronto. So I'm not ruling out you're going away and it being a little bit different. And by the way, you're losing your best defender. But if you go 1-1 on the road and you come back up 3-1 in the series with a chance to close it out in your own barn, well, that's absolutely significant. And I think that could be the case where I didn't necessarily believe that before the whole series started out. But now that I'm seeing it, the Raptors just don't have answers. And when I saw Fred VanVleet start off insanely hot, he was making everything, making all the threes in the world. But then there was a sequence in that second quarter, and the Raptors actually got a couple offensive rebounds, which it was annoying and it was frustrating. And it went back to Fred VanVleet for 2 wide open looks from deep, and both of them were short and both of them were extremely off. You could just tell, yeah, okay, well, that was a cute first. But now, as the game is progressing here, Fred VanVleet don't have it. You're coming up short. You're missing that badly. All right, we'll see how those legs hold up. That's the first sign of your legs just not being there. And they had no answers from there. I mean, that's really the moral of the story. The Raptors do not have enough. And the Sixers are playing smart basketball. They're playing team basketball. And they're rolling. Pick your poison. Who don't you want to beat you? Joel. Okay. How about Maxey? Maxi's got balls, man. Maxi's got balls. He'll take anyone. He really will. He'll take any shot, too. He really will. Those threes are sensational. They're so beautiful to watch. The confidence level, the rolling to the basket full speed. Not rolling in sense of like a pick and roll. Rolling as in just going downhill is probably a better way to phrase things here. But when he gets the basketball in full transition mode, he's just going downhill and you can't stop him. You got Embiid playing defense too, doing work on the defensive side. You got him in terms of just transition ball too. You got Tobias working on both ends. You got to give a lot of credit to Tobias Harris. There was a ton of hate towards him. And I just knew deep down that there was a better version of Tobias Harris that we weren't necessarily getting. But I knew it was in there. I did. I knew that there was more. It just takes some tweaking. It takes some adjustments. And this is the version of Tobias when he was going through his ugly spurts and miserable, pathetic, bad, horrible, ugly, can't play version of Tobias Harris. You can't play, Toby. I just knew that I've seen too much of the other Tobias to know that this isn't the norm. Now, I don't know if this is Toby every single day either, but I'll take as much as I can get out of it right now. And when he does have this head on his shoulders, it's not like it's impossible to get this version. Just seems like it's either, wow, this is awful, or wow, this is incredible. The middle ground doesn't happen as much, at least from a talking point standpoint. But I love his professional approach to it all. He's been through a lot. He's been through a ton of criticism, and sometimes a little too much. Because I remember I was listening to people discuss how bad he was last year in the playoffs. I'm sorry, but 37% from three and basically 22 points per game is not as bad as you made it out to be. Well, he came up small in some big games. Well, you demanded him to be the number 2 next to Joel Embiid because Ben Simmons was afraid. You're now forcing him to play a different role because the guy that you should have demanded to play better wouldn't. Now you see how things changes when he moves down the pecking order. And I don't know how many teams have a 4 that's Tobias. A 4? Not specifically as in the power forward, but as in the option. He's your 4th option behind Embiid, Harden, Maxey. It's a good spot to be. And talk about the money all you want. And that's never going to go away. It's not his fault that the Sixers alluded to do that. But even if you go back to that moment and that time, Jimmy Butler shoots 3% from 3. Jimmy Butler has been banged up with his body all year long. And I'm sorry, I'm getting a little bit distracted here because I'm watching the Phils in the 8th inning have some noise on the bases after being quiet all day. Made it a 4-1 game, and now they just kind of, don't even get me started. Don't even get me started. This shouldn't be a day where I get annoyed by the Phils. This shouldn't be a moment where I allow the Phillies pinstripes to get on my nerves because what we just witnessed was two straight games of dominance where the Raptors just look lost, they look defeated, and they tried to go out there with the mentality of, we're going to boss you around, we're going to play super tough, and we're going to throw you around the court and bring the physicality. When you have to lean on that in that moment, you're not good enough. That means we don't have enough talent. Our matchups are not going to work, and we can't expose you as much as we would like to because we don't have the opportunity to expose you, so we need to play this game. We got to foul Embiid super hard, and that Pascal Siakam one was dirty as hell. I can't believe they only called that a common foul. Now, I love Embiid after the game. He talked about that OG technical foul, and he was kind of letting them know and kind of setting the tone as well. Like, you want it? And I love the fact, too, that if you want it, all right, we can play that game, too. And the response was ridiculous because that first quarter was loud. It was crazy. It was nonstop. The emotions that Embiid had when after every and one, he's screaming at the top of his lungs. He's getting the crowd involved. He's dapping up his teammates. I mean, it just brought the intensity to the next level. And there was a moment where they showed it on the broadcast, a little bit of a slow motion of Embiid underneath the basket walking to the charity stripe, and I had goosebumps running through my veins. And by the way, I normally stick with NBC Sports Philadelphia because why wouldn't I want the home broadcast? Gus Johnson on TNT? I'm a Gus Johnsonsman. I am. I'm a Gus Johnsonsman. I mean, he's the best ever in college football. In college hoop days, give me Gus Johnson all day long. You're telling me I get him for some playoff action in the 76ers? I did go that route for the first half, and then I switched on over to Kate Scott and Ala. So I did give them the second half. But you give me Gus Johnson, an opportunity to hear him on some playoff hoops. Yeah, sign me up any single day of the week. So that's really where I'm at here. I'm curious on what Doc Rivers does with the no Matisse Thybulle, because that does change some things. The Danny Green move has worked out tremendously. Even in game one, he wasn't sharp. He only made one shot. He missed every three attempt that he took. Finished 0 for 5 from 3 in that game one, but the Sixers still won with ease. Now you see how it works when he's cruising, and there's something to be said about the spacing. So we'll see. Matisse does change some things just in terms of a body to eat up some minutes. I don't know what the Raptors are going to do, though. I just don't know. They threw their first punch early. The Sixers countered. And then from there, it is what it is. You want to talk about the fourth quarter and a little bit of confidence that they might gain? That's one thing that Ala said that I don't necessarily agree with when it was what felt like a 50-point lead for the Sixers. And here comes the Raptors creeping in a bit. You're thinking, uh-oh, what's going to happen? And then Ala pointed out, you don't want this to happen. You don't want this to happen. You don't want them to gain any sort of confidence and feel good about themselves. Dude. I don't know how you can feel good about yourself when majority of the game, I can't even do the math on how big they are, how big the lead is. Seriously, it's like I'm trying in my mind. I carry the 5. I mean, what? And to be fair, I did not anticipate this. I would have never thought in a million years it would have looked that clean. It would have looked that crisp. Now, when you go to game one and you see the lack of turnovers, I figured there'd be more, right? You get the 4 turnovers, you had the shot clock violation. Joel Embiid had 0 turnovers in game one. You anticipated that it would go into a normal range of turnovers in this game because that's pretty outrageous what they did in game one. You could also look, though, at game one and say, wow, the Raptors actually had some decent scoring. They had some decent half-court sets. They had some decent players shoot the ball well and all. But that just shows you the disparity and shows you what this defining theme is today, which is, what do you want the Raptors to do differently? And honestly, be honest with yourself. You watch this game and you truly think the difference between both of these teams is the fact that the referees are ruining it? If that's the case, you're just being naive and you're not being objective. I'd be the first one to say that it's getting to a point that maybe I don't agree. There was one call that I think Nick Nurse had a reason to be as mad as he did. And that was the call that he challenged, where they kept it on the floor as a block. They even brought in the crew, but they're always going to support the call that's on the court because that's what they do. It probably should have been a charge. They called it a block. So is that the difference in the 25 points? Okay. Is that the difference in the 28 points, the 26 points, the 24 points, the 20-point leads that we were seeing in this game? Absolutely not. That stuff happens throughout every NBA game. The difference is one team is significantly better than the other team right now. It's just that simple. I do want to look at the turnovers for Embiid tonight. If you look at Joel Embiid, Joel ended with 4 turnovers. Maxey, 23 points. Tobias, 20 points, 10 boards as well. I did hit on his. I took Tobias Harris over 1.5 threes. That's always one of my favorites. I just feel there's good value in it. And the way that he's been playing ball lately, it's something I'm willing to take in terms of a risk. And I did miss, though, on the assists. He was set at 2.5 assists. So 3 assists, I'm thinking, yeah, you could probably get 3 assists in there. He only finished with 1, so a little disappointing from that angle. But another point I want to note as I look at the box score just to see some numbers. Danny Green took 9 threes. You want to talk about the improvement of the half court, the spacing meaning so much, and James Harden and his ability to facilitate a team when the game is slowed down. Danny Green jacking up 9 threes. You think about the difference of him and Matisse Thybulle playing? That's so monstrous for how you can operate as a squad for sure. We have a $5 donation coming in from Brandon. If nothing else, the James Harden trade unlocks something in Maxey that we never even dreamed was there. Harden is teaching Maxey well in the lab. Well, I mean, it's not if nothing else. I don't disagree with you saying James Harden probably did improve Maxey because of just the threes and just teaching him little things and details about the game that matter a lot. But knowing Maxey's work ethic, and I appreciate the $5 donation, Brandon, that you were going to get an unbelievable version of Tyrese Maxey with or without James Harden. Having him here is better than not having him here, but I don't like how you phrased the original comment. If nothing else, no, what do you mean? There's a lot more to be excited about out of James Harden than just teaching Tyrese Maxey. The fact that he's a professional point guard, the fact that he can give you legitimate playoff run and you feel comfortable about who has the ball in his hands in crucial moments. Not that these games have even been close enough for crucial moments, but there's a lot to be said about just how you feel solid and you feel like your team is in a good position with the ball in his hands, and the duo of him and Joel Embiid are deadly, and there's something to be said about what Daryl Morey has in the plans for next year as well with James Harden. So I don't want to make it seem like it's just a, hey, if nothing else. No, there's a lot more. There's a lot more. Don't downplay James Harden. It's a lot in James Harden. Now, my buddy pointed out to me the sleeve on his leg. I don't want to start going into like this extreme of a sleeve on his leg. If there's one thing I'm looking at, it's Joel Embiid and that elbow. You could tell that he was grimacing and kind of working it out a little bit. There was also a scenario where he was limping big time. But that's just Joel Embiid at this point, you know? He just goes through that. It's because he's getting fouled a lot. It's because guys are putting a lot of pressure on him. And he's finishing through a lot of contact. And he's not afraid to play tough. So this is kind of what happens when that's the case. But he's earning the stripes, for sure, 1,000%. I find it funny, right? Something Nick Nurse said was something about to Embiid. They were talking about it. And Embiid basically said, stop your bitching, respectfully. And they were talking about how much he was getting fouled. And Nick Nurse said, well, that's our plan, so you better keep making them. Embiid's talking about making them, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but it was basically like, well, we're going to keep putting you there. Well, isn't that kind of admitting then you're fouling him? I don't understand. If you're talking about you continuing to put Embiid at the line, Embiid's chirping you, basically saying, I can hit my free throws, and then you keep talking about your team putting him there, aren't you self-consciously then admitting that, well, we are fouling you? I mean, it's crazy. There was someone who covers the Toronto Sun, and he even put out there, the reason why Embiid's at the line as much as he is because the Raptors are actually fouling him. Thank you. Thank you. It's not rocket science. It's pretty damn obvious. It's one of the most clear things I've ever seen in my life. Crazy. All right, we're going to open up the phone lines, 856-442-9805. I would love to hear from you about what we just saw on the basketball floor. 856-442-9805. What say you on this win by the 76ers to go up 2-0? We will take our first caller now. Hello, you're on Broads Media.
How's it going, bro? This is Max from Indiana.
What's up, Max?
Dude, the Sixers are so fun. My fiance, who's not a basketball fan, is texting me asking what channel they're on. But it's just great to watch the Sixers. And Joel Embiid is a man possessed right now. I mean, we're seeing minor injuries that he might have waved himself off in years, but he gets up, acts like nothing happens, and walks down, hits the free throws. I think it's hilarious that Nick Nurse is saying we're going to foul him. People complain about his free throws, but they only do that because he makes them. So if they want to die by that, they're going to die by that in the series, and go Sixers.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Thanks, Max. I appreciate it. Max from Indiana checking in. And I agree completely in terms of the actually making the free throws. No one would complain if he wasn't good at them. You'd laugh at him. You'd mock him. He'd be Dwight Howard. He'd be Shaq. He'd be Andre Drummond. He'd be Ben Simmons. No one has a problem with bringing people to the line if they can't actually do it. But if they can do it, now all of a sudden it's cheating the game and it's some awful way of playing the game. No. He's got amazing footwork. He's Hakeem. All right, that's what he is. He's Olajuwon out there, mixed with Kobe, mixed with Michael. We've seen the clips before that Drew Hanlon put out there a few months ago of those clips, and then it's Joel Embiid now redoing those in a 7'2" body frame. So when he has all of these angles of playing, when you have to guess what he's going to do, and he's pump faking, he's going up and under, he's hitting a fadeaway step back, he's spinning around 3 times. Imagine what that's like. And then trying to tell the world that, oh, yeah, my defender is just perfectly defending him every time. There's no problems with what they're doing because they definitely know what bag of tricks Embiid's diving into. It's more just the guy on the sideline ruining the experience for our defenders on our team. It's crazy to me. In terms of the determination and the willingness out of Embiid this year, you're absolutely right. In years past, there were things that maybe kept him off the floor a little bit. And who knows? Maybe that was more of an organizational philosophy at the time. Now you have an Embiid that's different with his body frame, different with his body structure, different with his nutrition, different with his workouts in the off seasons and the way that he just manages himself. It's a totally different approach, but the way that he's got that killer attitude, and he learned how to grab that killer attitude, which, people always talk about. You either have it or you don't. And maybe Embiid always had it, but it was never really pried out of him before. You had to pull it out of him. And I think these losses in the past, whether it's Toronto, ironically enough, whether it's what happened in the Celtics bubble issue, when that was Ben Simmons had the back problem. I'll never forget that. That was the All-Star game situation. They went to Milwaukee. Ben Simmons left the game pretty early. I'll never forget that situation that played out. That was a weird one. That was the same one, right? Where he had the back problem. He couldn't play in the bubble, and it was a strange sequence. Even the Atlanta Hawks series, though, all of those losing moments, when everyone wants to call someone a loser for having a series where they don't come out on top, I don't necessarily view it that way. I say, what does that mean for the player? Okay, so let's use this as an example. What did Game 1 tell us? Well, after Game 1, I needed to see Game 2 because Game 2 would tell me more about Game 1. If someone loses in the playoffs, I'm not just going to automatically say that person's a bum, that person stinks, that guy's awful. That's stupid. That's silly. That's not fair. What does the next playoff series tell me about the previous one? Was there growth? Was there involvement? Michael Jordan wasn't the greatest player of all time when he was losing all the time to the Detroit Pistons, when he was losing to the bad boy Pistons nonstop, when he was having trouble winning a round. He wasn't the greatest then. Eventually, he became the greatest, but there's something to take out of losses. There's something to take out of negative things that occur in a playoff series. It's about learning and growing, and we are witnessing all of that bottled up over years and years of time, and now witnessing an Embiid that looks a different level of determined, looks a different level of a leader out there, and that's fine. I mean, that's how it goes. That's called sports. But too many people automatically call individuals bad players or mid, whatever the dumb TikTok 14-year-olds are saying these days. It's like, you're either a champion or you're the worst player ever. You're either a champion or you're a loser. And that's just not true at all. Is Charles Barkley a loser? Would you not take Charles Barkley on your team if you're starting a franchise back in that era? Is Patrick Ewing a player that you never want on your team and you never want that in your organization? I mean, I think that's absolutely foolish to go down that road. We got some text messages in here as well. Let's see here. Jay from West Philly. Embiid is unstoppable. Harden's a true point guard. Maxi's a rising star. Harris, Swiss Army knife. Okay, I like that. Sixers in 4, like Shaq said. Love the show, bros. Thanks, Jay. I appreciate it, man. Shaq said in 4. Look, I don't know. I don't see a way that the Raptors have enough to compete in a game at this point. They're banged up, but they are going home, and things happen. Things happen in a 7-game series. I don't know if I can go as strong as 4. Each game has its own life to it, but I think that over a 7-game series, when I originally said 6, I could see more 5. I could see more 5. I just don't know what they can do at this point strategically to stop the play. The only way that something can really turn in the favor of the Raptors in a specific game is the Sixers don't make their shots. And look, you could have the same exact looks today and on Wednesday. Today you make them, Wednesday you don't. Same looks, same ball movement, good rhythm, Embiid passing out of double teams, seeing the court very well, looking for teammates. Danny Green wide open, brick. Maxey wide open, brick. But tonight, those ones go in. So I could see the Sixers still getting good looks, just maybe not making their shots, and that's the difference. But I don't know what the Raptors could throw their way that would change. Because, all right, you get your ass kicked game 1, right? Absolutely annihilated game 1. Well, at that point, you got to come out with your best stuff game 2. And I get it. They had guys injured. They had guys out. And that plays a role. I still don't think healthy they have enough. And don't tell me, well, in the regular season's not the playoffs. The regular season's not the playoffs. Doesn't matter what happens on Tuesday night in April. Well, no, April's right now. And Tuesday night in January. That's not April. So that's irrelevant. When it comes down to it, when you get hit as hard as they got hit in game 1, and this is what your game 2 looks like, was Nick Nurse holding on to secret weapons? He's just waiting for game 3 to use it? No. You know what his secret weapon is? Bitch and complain. And it ain't working. There are some open lines if you would like to chime in at 856-442-9805. I would love to hear from you on what went down in your eyes. I'm seeing the chat go on. A lot of back and forth with some Raptors fans. Yeah, I don't know. If I was a Raptors fan, I think it would just be easy for me to say, you know what? The Sixers are just better. The Sixers are just better. If you're going to lie to yourself and hold on to something and pretend that it's something else, I don't know why. Why? I tweeted out that Nick Nurse is a loser, right? In terms of him and Embiid jawing at one another after the game. And the amount of responses, look at that ring he has on his finger. He's not a loser. If Embiid wasn't playing the way that he was flopping, look at the free throw disparity. What? Are you watching the game? Be honest with me. Are you watching the game? Do you see both of these teams being on the same level? It's okay to say no. It's okay to acknowledge it. You're lying. What you're doing, if you're not acknowledging it, is you're lying. You're lying to yourself. Just be honest. I would respect you more just to shake your head and go, you know what? I thought it would be better, because all Sixers fans would agree. Did you think this? No. So Raptors fans, deep down, probably expected something similar to what Sixers fans thought. A hard, tough series. Before the series began, I said 65% Sixers, 35% Raptors. Vegas told me that the Sixers had a good chance in winning the series at about minus 180. It's good numbers. Vegas is right more than they're wrong. I'll take it. They have a better chance. But I thought it would still be a lot more competitive. There's times where I'm honestly almost bored. What? Yes. Never would have thought it in a million years. But now that you're seeing these two teams out there, one team is at a 10. The other team is at basically a 4. That's where you're at right now. And I think it's okay to admit that. Back to the text board. Let's see here. Really happy all around. This game was exciting and nervous for the game Wednesday. Great 2 wins. Lots of efficiency from Tobias, Danny, Embiid, and Harden. Danny dunking had me cracking up so much. You think the Raptors were dirty and were banged up a little. Now, wait, you think the Raptors were dirty and were banged up a little now, which has me worried. Why are you worried? You think they're going to strategically try and injure people? I don't know. I mean, you saw that today with Pascal Siakam's dirty one, which was dirty. Absolutely. And today's game of basketball, was that dirty? Yeah. They tried to hit you with the, oh, well, it looks like Embiid slipped. Embiid didn't slip. Embiid didn't slip at all. What happened was Pascal just played the body full on and shoved him to the ground when Embiid was going up. So maybe that's part of it. I'd be lying to say that I didn't see something similar to that in this game. So why would that change for game 3? Fair point. Let's go to Ethan. What's up, Ethan?
What's up, bros? How you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
I'm good. I gotta say, I've been bashing Doc Rivers this whole season. I'm actually pretty impressed through these first 2 playoff games. He's got us moving the ball around and everyone's dishing the rock and we're scoring. I'm impressed.
Yeah, they are playing good team basketball, but let me throw this your way. Maybe, just maybe, as I've alluded to for years now and gotten heavily criticized, maybe the players are just fucking playing awesome. And then it comes down to, I don't know how much the NBA had. It's like the guys are just playing well. And it's crazy how when the guys play well, it's like, oh, Doc's doing amazing. Well, how about the guys who are just playing extremely well?
Yeah. I think it's a combination of both. I think Doc's got them moving the ball, but they're also knocking down those shots. I think it's a combination of both.
Yeah, look, obviously a head coach has an impact. I'm not saying they don't at all, but I just find it hysterical, right? Because now all of a sudden Nick Nurse stinks to everyone. Well, does Nick Nurse stink? Or is it the fact that his team stinks? And it's like, oh, now all of a sudden Nick Nurse is some horrible coach. Now, one team has superstar talent. The other team doesn't have superstar talent. And the team with superstar talent's doing superstar talent things, and it puts a big smile on my face, though, that's for sure.
Yeah, about Nick Nurse, he's got to stop bitching and complaining. Kawhi Leonard and Marc Gasol cannot save him now.
Exactly. It's a big difference. Thanks, Ethan. I appreciate it. It's a big difference with and without a Kawhi Leonard. It's a huge difference. Now, Marc Gasol always had Embiid's number, but I don't think we have the Embiid we have today without those Marc Gasol situations. When Marc Gasol used to own him and dominate him and wax him, because that was the case. And unfortunately for us, it was at a time where Marc Gasol was like 92. He'd be 92 years old and he'd be stealing Joel Embiid's lunch money. Well, guess what? We have this version of Embiid. Thank you, Marc Gasol. And thank you for the quadruple and all that. Because we don't have MVP level of Embiid, whether he actually gets it or not. We don't have that version that we get now without it. Now, would I rather not experience that heartbreak? Probably. But I don't know what version of Embiid you have at that point if that's not the case. Because he was clearly hurt after that game. Doc Rivers is a bigger complainer than Nick Nurse. I don't know how you can make that assessment. What am I missing? What makes you feel like Doc Rivers is complaining more than Nick Nurse? That is probably the most biased statement I've ever heard in my life. Jimmy, try calling in again, man. I think I accidentally hit the wrong button when you called in, so it looks like you're trying to get in. If you ring again, maybe let's see if it pops up, and I think I hit the wrong button, so yeah, that's on me. Give it another buzz. See what happens. See if I can get you in here. I can see that you're active. No, I'm not acting like Kawhi Leonard was the only player in that series. Kyle Lowry, Danny Green. They had a team for sure. You win with superstar talent. You are in an advantage when you have superstar talent. That is the number one reason why teams win is superstar talent. From there, yeah, you need efficient role players. You need effective guys. You need players that are going to step up and help out that said superstar. But it all starts with the number one man. That's like without Joel Embiid, the Sixers are not where they are. Even if Tobias has 20, even if Maxi's giving you a big-time night and has that awesome spot where he drains a big three, he stops the bleed, whatever the case is, that's all great. And those are important, and those matter. And that's the difference in blowing out a team and having a 20-point lead or maybe being a 7-point lead, is those other guys, drilling big shots and hitting key buckets. Doesn't happen without the big fella. And that's fair to say. Now there's apparently criticism of Joel Embiid for hurting Scottie on purpose. Okay. We have Raptors fans claiming that Embiid deserves to go down with an injury. That's... Jeez, man. I mean, really? That's where we're at here in the chat? You can go screw yourself, right? I mean, what are we doing here? Why are we going to that level? It's crazy. It's absolutely absurd. If the team in the North had split, then I would give credit. But I don't see how the Barneys can win even one game. Well, that's kind of where we're at now. It's hard for me to envision that. At the same time, can I give them one? Something happens in Toronto. Sixers don't make their shots. It goes 5 games. I guess I can't rule that out, right? I guess I can't rule that out. Let's see here. Let's try this. Let's go to the phones and see what's going on here. Hello? 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 Okay. Heavy breathing. We're just at heavy breathing. Maybe that's what they wanted to say to me today. Elbows by the face. Elbows to the face by Embiid. I mean, they were playing basketball. It's not like Embiid was like, here, take this elbow. I'm going to smack it in your eye. Have you ever played the sport of basketball where you're by the basket, you're going up for a shot, you grab the basketball, you gather the basketball, you gather your steps, you go up? There's something called inadvertent situations here where, just by playing the game, guys get an elbow. It's the game of basketball. How many times have you seen someone get hit in the face with an elbow when you're playing the game of basketball around the rim? There's something to be said about having something occur by accident and accidentally hitting someone, and then there being a real purpose of, screw this guy, I'm just going to completely annihilate him and take him out of a play. And if that's what you saw, God bless your soul, but you are absolutely 1,000% wrong in that assessment. You're just looking and searching and trying to convince yourself something with a set of eyes that's 1,000% biased. It's crazy to me. Boucher complains about every call. This is what Evan is saying in the chat. It's not just Boucher. It's everyone in a Raptors uniform, apparently. But look, with that being said, we're going to kind of shut things down here, I guess. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Hit that thumbs up button as well. I greatly appreciate it. If you're looking to buy tickets to go to any event out there, you can utilize the promo code BROADS at SeatGeek's checkout page, which gets you $20 off of your purchase. And then lastly, social media, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter at Broads Media. We are getting calls, so we'll take Jimmy. I did tell Jimmy to call in, so why don't we try and get Jimmy in here before we rock and roll with some things here. What's up, Jimmy? Hello.
Hey, Broads, what's up?
What's up, Jimmy?
Man, great game. I mean, I was shocked that it's been this easy so far. I thought this would have been a much tougher matchup for the Sixers. And, I mean, apparently, according to all the Raptors fans, Nick Nurse, it's only because the foul discrepancy and the call discrepancy. It's not due to anything the fact that the Sixers are more talented or even that Doc Rivers is actually holding the zone against him. No, it's all in the Zebras. They're the only reason, apparently, why the Sixers have kicked their ass in the last 2 games.
Yeah, it's crazy. And once you get to that point where if I'm a Raptors fan, or hell, if I'm in the locker room and I'm the Raptors, and I hear Nick Nurse after game 2, and he's bringing up more sequences that bother him, it's like, dude, at this point, it sounds so bad. And I have a lot of respect for Nick Nurse. I think he is a coach in this league that deserves respect, right? But this is a bad look. This is a a real ugly look to take it to this extreme. I didn't mind after game 1 just saying something real brief, whatever. Try and work the refs for game 2 just a little bit. But he has crossed the line.
Oh, yeah, here's another thing. Giannis shoots as many free throws per game as Embiid does, and nobody, absolutely nobody, complains that, oh, Giannis, he goes to the line all the time. It's so unfair. It's so stupid. The league is rigged for Giannis. It's like the whole foul shot thing is so stupid. If you don't want them to go to the line, don't foul them.
Yeah.
Oh, it's 3 points. It's 3 points.
Here's another thing, Jimmy.
It's free.
Yeah, real quick. Here's another thing. No, most teams don't have a center being their number one option and being an MVP. So a lot of these teams, they're so glued to their screen every night, and they see perimeter play, they see guards scoring 30 points, they watch crossovers and a bunch of threes. So when you see something so old school, and you see something where most of your offense is being established by, the low block area, well, of course you're going to get fouled because you have someone's presence who's significantly better than you working 4 feet from the basket, but you're not accustomed to that because no teams have that except for the Sixers.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. Embiid, not a lot of teams have a monster like Embiid. And one more thing, all you Raptors fans in the chat right now who are saying, oh, Raptors in 4, we aren't scared of the Sixers. How do you assholes feel right now, huh?
Love it. Love it, Jimmy. Appreciate it. We also got $7 Canadian donation. Don't know the difference from U.S. to Canadian in terms of, what's the word I'm looking for? Not transfer, but you know what I'm saying. This is y'all. What? This is y'all. Would sell your mama just to have Nick Nurse sitting on your bench fact. I don't know what sentence that is. We have grammar here in the States. That's not grammar that I can comprehend, but I guess what you're saying is I would sell my mother to have Nick Nurse sitting on my bench fact. Okay. Thanks, Martin, for the $7 Canadian donation. Appreciate it. Conversion. Yes, that's the word I'm looking for. Anyway, with that, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me tonight. We'll be back for the Sixers thoughts as we get ready for Game 3. Wow. Moving along. Already 2 games, huh? 2-0. Hasn't even been close. Almost a snooze, some would say. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me, and